have you ever seen collectively worse umpiring than what we have seen this year? And I'm talking principally balls and strikes, not calls at first base and reviews and stuff like that. And maybe I'm overly focused on it. Or maybe these umpires are trying to rebel out of fear that they're going to be taken away from the process. But am I nuts, or is the umpiring just abysmal?
Hold on. The answer to both is yes.
Okay.
Well, there's one opinion.
Here's how I'm going to answer this question. It's important for us to remember when it comes to balls and strikes, and this was reported on recently by Jeff Passan. I think it was a very important story, that the grid that we see on television is not necessarily the official strike zone in all cases.
Fine, but don't go too far down that road, Morosi, because that's an excuse.
Two different ways. But let me finish here. Two different ways. Technically, Aaron Judge's strike zone should be taller than Jose Altuve's based on just body type and size. Okay. And we all know that necessarily on a television broadcast, you're not always changing the shape of the strike zone for every individual hitter. We're all familiar with television production. It's just not possible to do that in a way that will digitally represent all the time.
No, it is possible. It's just too darn expensive.
It's expensive and rather onerous, as you guys know how that would be done in the production house of a game. It's a lot. Yeah. So you're doing the best you can to give your viewers a guide of what the strike zone is. Okay, so that's number one. The other part, this is the part that Jeff has reported on. Interestingly, when umpires are evaluated, they are given a certain width on either side of the plate as a grace zone, if you will, a margin for error. So if a pitch is missed that is just off the plate and doesn't contact the plate, but is called a strike off the outside corner, it will likely not be called a miss on the umpire's evaluation that's done by MLB, which is the part of their evaluation that goes into all-star game assignments, postseason assignments, retention, all those larger questions. So the scoring is different from what we have seen on the screen. I would also say this: the high strike, the rule book strike zone includes a greater percentage of higher strikes than were called traditionally in the game. We are now seeing the high strike brought back into the game, largely because pitchers know they can get strikes up there, both because they're being called. It's a rule book part of the strike zone. And if your hitters are focused on the launch angle school of thought, if you will, it's a lot easier to just think of the physics of it. It's easier to launch a low pitch and leverage it up than to stay below a higher pitch and keep it on a line or elevated, because it's more likely to be a pop-up. So pitchers are increasingly going up, and you might see on a strike zone view of an at bat, what looks like a miss by the umpire might not actually be a miss. Now, to finally say that before I get it back to you guys, all of this will likely be moot next year, or if not all of it, a lot of it, because MLB can go down one of two routes: either fully automated zone, and it's going to be just indicated by a beep in the umpire's ear, and that's going to call every single pitch. Or we're seeing right now in the minor leagues something called challenge games, where managers retain 3 challenges for the whole game.
Oh my gosh.
Challenge.
Oh my gosh.
3 calls. And it's done, John, very quickly. The commissioners talked about this, and that is potentially one solution for a hybrid model. If you want to keep the umpire calling balls and strikes, that's one way to have a measured halfway solution. And the final point I'll make on this is the umpires, the home plate umpires are not going to be leaving the game. Okay, we are not going to
No, I
have
get
a game where you see nobody standing behind home plate. Someone has to signal what the audio IFB source is telling you what to do. And also there are parts of the job that are less controversial. Time in and time out. Understanding and calling plays at the plate.
Right.
Obviously, when time is granted or not by a pitcher or a hitter, catcher's interference, all those types of things are still judgment calls, fair and foul in front of the first and third base. Those are all called still. So I think it's important to have a home plate umpire. The home plate umpire's job is not in question, but it's just a matter of balls and strikes called. Whose responsibility is that going to be going forward? That is what's up for debate. There's always going to be somebody standing behind home plate.
Can I remind you of the question which you conveniently avoided to and neglected to answer?
I don't
John-
think it's the worst. I do not believe it's the worst we have seen. I do not believe
You
it's the
don't.
worst.
Wow.
I don't. Nope. I don't.